This is a broadcast from the Pop Cult Pod. That's right, welcome to the Pop Cult Pod. I am your cult leader, Tom Pod, and abandon all hope, ye who enter here. It's a downer episode this week, folks. It's just, I'm not gonna lie, it's a shit sandwich, you know. I mean, like, the good thing though, I mean, like, eating a shit sandwich, like, at least the bread is presumably good. It's just the shit in the middle is not good. Which unfortunately, I guess the shit is the majority of the show. I'm not saying it's a bad show. I'm just saying it's all downer news. It's really bad, which is great because I mean, look, the one thing I keep hearing is the world is too good right now. We're just too happy. Like, that's what all those protests are about, right? You know, people are just like, boo! We want misery! Well, misery is what you're going to get, but don't worry, we'll get through it together as we get into the new news.
Not just news. Not just new news. But the new.
I did mention we were going to start off with some positivity, and that we will, because one of the few positives of the last few weeks of news is DC. Who'd have thunk it? This is news that just came hot off the press. It's so hot I burn my hands. Is that we are going to be getting a Blue Beetle movie. Now here's the thing. We kind of knew this before already, but it's one of those things that's been rumoured and speculated and changed too many times to even know what the hell was going on. So I guess we can try to go through the history of this, which is kind of all over the place, but back in, I think it was 2015, Greg Berlanti, who did basically all the Arrowverse stuff, I think he was working on a Blue Beetle movie, or was it Blue Beetle Booster Gold? Jesus. Movie. Basically, those heroes are normally teamed together, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. And there was apparently talk of like an intergalactic kind of superhero kind of buddy cop movie. Apparently they were still working on a Booster Gold movie, but the one that seems to be going forward for now is that Blue Beetle is happening. So the reason we got that is because we'd heard talk of a script already, but this week, and in fact today as of this recording, they have hired a director. The movie is going to be directed by Angel Manuel Soto. I was going to say Angel or Angel, but I'm going to say Angel Manuel Soto just in case. His most notable work was last year's Charm City Kings, which was apparently very, very good. I haven't checked it out myself, but it went exclusively to HBO Max. I'm bringing that up for a reason. Bear with me. He said in a statement, "It is an honor to direct Blue Beetle, the first Latino superhero film for DC." Soto said in a statement, "I want to sincerely thank everyone at Warner Bros. And DC for trusting me to bring Jamie Reyes to life. I can't wait to make history together." I don't know if it's Jamie or Jaime. I don't know. I'm just butchering simple names today. Normally at least it's a complicated name. Jaime? I don't know. But as he said, yeah, first Latino superhero for DC, which is pretty interesting. Now, the other thing we should get to is Blue Beetle's origin, because he's not like the most obvious character to make a movie about. And I say this, you know, as considering DC don't have a Superman really at the moment, and a lot of the movies they've announced haven't come to be. It's like, why this one? This isn't really a character that a lot of people are familiar with. But basically, the character in this most modern interpretation is Jamie Reyes. I'm just going to call him Jamie. Let's just roll with it. Who gets their powers from the Scarab, which is a kind of a tool that extraterrestrials used as a false gift to a champion of each world. They kind of went to all these worlds and they were like, "You are a champion of this world. Here is this Scarab," which they kind of basically said, "Oh, this is going to give you, you know, a massive like way of bettering the world around you." But in reality, it was secretly kind of take over the holder of it and was part of a hive mind. Now, the Scarab that gets to Reyes' character is that it's damaged, and because of that, instead of it taking over him, it sort of leads to a symbiotic relationship between Jamie and the Scarab, which gives him an armoured suit that grants him flight, extreme strength, and more abilities. So I think the best way of kind of, if I had to like elevator pitch for this character, he's like a mixture between Cyborg and Venom and Green Lantern is kind of what I'm getting from what I've done from my admittedly limited research of Blue Beetle. But he seems to be a very interesting character. He's kind of one that at least in the more modern iteration is kind of a more recent one to have gained popularity. But all that being said, as I said, it's strange that he's not kind of grouped with Booster Gold, because that was kind of the classic team up, was Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. So What that means, we don't entirely know. But the reason I brought this up, and I should say, apparently this is aiming to start production this fall, the autumn. It's really annoying because like obviously I'm like I'll transcribe the bits of news that are interesting in the story, and then it'll say fall, and I'm like, oh, do I have to say fall? This fall, Blue Beetle. Why I'd say this is interesting is because there was a news story at one stage talking to the head of Warner Brothers, who at this stage I can't even remember his name. Is it Kevin? Something? I'm not even sure if it is, because at this stage they kind of gone through a fair few, but maybe that was the old guy. But regardless, he said basically that their goal was to have 2 kind of HBO Max exclusive DC films a year. Now, is this the start of that? Is what the big question is. The guy I was thinking of is the former head of Warner Brothers. That's not who I meant. Kevin Tsujihara. Yeah, really butchering names today. The reason I bring this up is because this, as I said, is coming together very quickly. The fact it's going to be in production in fall. I said it that time and I didn't even mean it as a joke. Is it Toby Emmerich is the head of Warner Bros? I'm all over the place today. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to spend as much time as I can in the positive news stories before we get to the real downer stuff. I think this could be the fact that it's ramping up so quickly, the fact that it almost seemingly came out of nowhere, and that you're dealing with a director who kind of put a movie on HBO Max already, and again, maybe that's not a factor at all, maybe I'm just connecting dots that aren't there. I think this could be the first film that is going to be one of those HBO Max movies. Probably a more limited budget, which makes sense for a character that we don't necessarily know. Again, we don't really even know the status of the DC Extended Universe right now. So I think this would make sense in that regard to be kind of a test run for a DC HBO Max exclusive movie. I think this is probably the right character to do it with, because it's like a character that will be known enough by DC fans who haven't even read the character. He's kind of like on the fringe between obscure and major, So it's interesting. Does that mean it's going to Warner Bros? HBO Max? I don't know. I kind of feel like it makes sense, but that's not confirmed. That's just pure speculating. But we don't want to speculate anymore about our next bit of news. And when we talk about hope, we all know that Superman's symbol stands for hope. And certainly the same can be said for Supergirl, who, out of nowhere, was cast for the Flash film. This literally just was like, oh, okay. I mean, all these rumors about Flash, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, this is our Supergirl. And we're like, what? I'm sorry, Supergirl's in the film? So, like I said, it was really just, whoa, that's that came out of nowhere, but fair enough. And speaking of coming out of nowhere, this actress who they cast as Supergirl, the role is going to be played by Sasha Calle, whose name I'm probably also mispronouncing. I think I'm 3 for 3. I'm mispronouncing names today. In fact, maybe 4, because I'm sure I brought up the head of Warner Bros. Who wasn't the head of Warner Bros. And I fucked up his name just for the fun of it. She is best known, her only major role really was on The Young and the Restless, which is an American soap opera. And she is going to be Supergirl, which is the first Latina to play the character, or Latinx person to play Supergirl. Which is pretty interesting, for one, because we just had the statement earlier where it's like, I'm the first Latino superhero, and it's like, oh, there's already a bit of rivalry there now. Interesting stuff. Again, they searched, they did a lot of auditions for this, seemingly all during lockdown, and she wore out the part. As I said, she's really come out of nowhere, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We learned this through the director Andy Muschieta's Instagram, which a lot of people were like, this is so wholesome, but I kind of looked at it and I was like, this feels really staged and kind of awkward. It was just like, do you fly? I don't know what Andy Muschieta's deal is, but his accent was really kind of, I don't know. It felt like he should be in a Universal monster movie. No offense, he's a talented director and a nice guy. He's Argentinian, but he just had a very strange accent that I wasn't expecting. He was like, can you fly? And she was like, what do you mean, can I fly? He was like, can you fly? She's like, I suppose I could fly. And he was like, will you fly? And then he showed her like a Superman suit. She was like, oh my god. So maybe I've just become a cold, emotionless husk. And I say become, realizing that I already am. But I was just like, history is a little bit phony to me. But it was nice all the same. I'm very happy for her. You know, I mean, to see a kind of actress come out of nowhere and get such a major role is very nice, and hopefully she nails it. Which this Flash movie is starting to pick up the pace a bit, no pun intended. So it might be overstuffed. It seems like there's a lot going in here, but you know, of course, we're going to have Michael Keaton's Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman, God knows what else, possibly some of the rest of the Justice League, and Ezra Miller, who strangles women. If it was in fact him, allegedly. I'm just going to say it now, everything in this episode, allegedly. Yeah, so that's the thing. Hopefully, I'm sure the internet, well actually so far, give credit to the internet, so far the internet hasn't been horrible and racist to her, which is nice. Wow, way to go. Way to be normal people, internet. Although I've already seen people being like, is she going to dye her hair blonde? Yeah, because that's what we need for our superheroes. They have to have exactly the specific colour. I always found that weird anyway, that Supergirl was blonde. I mean, Clark Kent has dark hair. It just, I mean, like, if you're doing a perfect allegory for Superman that's female, why is she blonde? Just feels like, what I was going to say is it feels like some artist was like, oh yeah, blonde bombshell. And the reason I say that is because in the video version behind me right now, there is a Supergirl Breaking to Change, which is a riff off the very famous Superman cover. Do you know how hard it was to find a kind of wallpaper-sized picture of the comic book version of Supergirl that wasn't like creepy nerd wank bait? Like, I swear, I'm not even joking. I cleared my history after searching it. I was like, Supergirl comic wallpaper, and it was all like, you know, like her, like it looked like it would be in a mechanic's garage. I mean, Jesus, I'm no prude, but I was like, this is just a little bit creepy. But regardless, it's positive news. And this is where we've gotten through the bread part of our shit sandwich. And, you know, we're not going to chomp down yet. We're just going to get a nice aroma as we talk about the news that a beloved show that I love and many others do too was cancelled or is coming to an end. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. In a very not nice, word, what we got this week is that basically the show is... Well, let's talk, before we dive into the news story, let's talk about the kind of strange place this show has been in. Because it was cancelled at Fox, it moved over to NBC for the last few seasons, and it's done pretty well for NBC. The ratings have been very positive. It's done very well. It's actually got more episodes kind of than it was meant to at times. And, you know, fans loved it, of course. Fans basically saved it to begin with. And it's been in a very weird place, because obviously, over the last while, a lot of protests and questions about the police, especially in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, has put the show in a really awkward place, because, you know, like, it wasn't just this show that was affected. I mean, shows like Cops were pulled from reruns. I think Live PD was cancelled. Two actual cop shows, and this kind of left it in an awkward place because it was just like, it kind of feels like, at least, but judging by their standards, they were kind of like, is now the time to kind of like make all the cops out to be lighthearted, funny guys, when there is seriously, clearly some issues with the police forces in America. I was going to say not to get political, but unfortunately we're going to get to that later on as well. So there was all sorts of debate about this, even to the point where apparently they said some scripts or some episodes that were ready to go have just been tossed. And when they say that, I assume it was that scripts were completed. I don't assume they filmed and are never going to release the episodes. I doubt that's the case. It was more likely scripts that they had completed that are just not going to be used. So there was just a real kind of question, and we kind of got all these cryptic statements from actors and talents and people behind the scenes just being like, we're trying to figure out what this show is in the modern age. What do we do with these characters and this setting and all that kind of stuff. And there was all sorts of jokes, like maybe you can just say nothing about it and they're all librarians, which is kind of funny. But regardless, we got the unfortunate news that Brooklyn Nine-Nine is going to end in its 8th season, its upcoming 8th season, with an abbreviated run of 10 episodes. And not only that, it's not going to be back this TV season, it is going to be back in the 2021-2022 season, which basically means anytime from September to summer of 2022. Which is... it kind of sucks. I think it... Like, look, as much as it's sad that like a good show, a good sitcom is kind of going off there, which I kind of honestly feel like there's not a lot of good sitcoms on TV at the moment. It feels like a lot of them are kind of wrapping up and ending. Superstore is ending as well, which is a very popular one. It kind of feels like we're kind of suffering, especially with the kind of network sitcoms are kind of dying a death at the moment. And this one kind of going out in it's I think with all the controversy, it kind of made it go like, is it on its own terms? Are they going to have, are they going to be able to craft an ending in 10 episodes that doesn't feel kind of rushed? And I mean, Parks and Rec did it with 13 episodes, I think it was, so it's doable. It's kind of a shame because it feels like their hand was a little bit forced. But all that said, co-creator Dan Gore said, ending the show was the difficult decision, but ultimately we felt it was the best way to honour the characters, the story, and our viewers. I know some people will be disappointed it's ending so soon, but honestly, I'm grateful it lasted this long. Title of my sex tape, which was nicely done. At the end of the day, I think that's the way you have to look at it. 8 seasons for a show is nothing to be sneezed at, realistically, it wouldn't have gone on much longer anyway. But it's kind of a shame that it wasn't kind of maybe a bit of a longer season, and that we kind of have to wait a bit longer for them just to wrap it up. But fortunately, it'll hopefully give them the time to, figure out an ending that works for the show and for fans. But anyway, that's a bit of another bummer news. A good show is coming to an end, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, after 8 seasons. But this is where we get to the real downer stuff. We're biting in, folks. We're biting into that sandwich. And oh man, this is one that like movie news sites haven't talked about much. But I kind of want to talk about it because I've mentioned in the past that I'm a big fan of Jackass. I won one of our awards when we did the award show at the start of the year. I'm more knowledgeable than most people on Jackass, which is kind of a weird kind of card to have in my deck, but there you go. There's been a very strange story developing, and not just strange, but just really kind of sad. And it's sad for a lot of reasons and for a lot of people. But basically, the story, I guess, if you were to let's just take the news story first. The news story is seemingly that Bam Margera is saying that he has been cut from Jackass 4. Now, that's kind of, as much as that will be a sad story, it's more like, what? How do you do that? I mean, like, when you think of Jackass as a concept, he's one of the main people. He's probably, like, at least up until recently, he would have been second billing after Johnny Knoxville. So the question is what's happening, and it sort of comes down to how long you've been paying attention to Bam Margera, which for most people probably isn't a lot. But he's unfortunately coming back on a lot of people's radars over the last few weeks because he's seemingly having a very kind of public meltdown and relapse with drugs or alcohol, probably both, potentially both, and he's also struggling with a seemingly bipolar disorder, among maybe many other things. Here's the thing. We're coming into Jackass 4, which is now over a decade since the last film. It didn't feel like we were ever going to get another Jackass film. In fact, some people, and I admit myself, as much as I'm a fan of Jackass, I kind of wish they'd leave well enough alone, because these guys are very old now, and I kind of feel like at a certain point, I don't want to say you're messing with the legacy of Jackass, because that just sounds stupid, because at the end of the day, it's a show about elaborate nutshots, basically. You're kind of like, how many times do you go back to the well before it's dry? It kind of feels like, one of the cast members has passed on already. Ryan Dunn has passed on. The guys have now aged 10 years since the last time. At a certain point, at a certain age, it just becomes sad, if it didn't become sad already to a lot of people. And the kind of thing that seemingly held back another Jackass movie for some time, at least according to some people, and this is speculation, I guess, was Bam's sobriety. He's been struggling for a while now, and a lot of people have kind of, from the outside looking in, they've said, he lost his best friend in Ryan Dunn. That's what led to him. And if you ask most people that are probably his people who are say to be his friends, it's been out of control for a while, but that just kind of pushed him over the edge. He's had all these sort of public battles. He got in an argument with his wife very publicly and started saying horrible things about her on social media not that long ago. Started writing these inexplicable symbols, saying it was a language he invented. I think it was maybe a year ago, maybe a bit before. He was just clearly going through something very much like he's going through now, and demanding to get the help from Dr. Phil. And I mean, come on, like Dr. Phil, is Dr. Phil even a doctor? I don't think he is. But it didn't help him, and he's now going through this again, seemingly worse. So I mean, as we said, he said he's been cut from Jackass 4. No one has publicly spoken about this, and I think that's why it hasn't really been touched, because I guess they kind of figure if they make a big news story out of it, they're giving oxygen to a story that is, you know, something that shouldn't be given attention, and I'll get to why that is in a minute. And also that they're not that, you know, getting, you know, maybe giving Bam some of the attention he clearly wants isn't going to help him. And you know, that's being a little bit you know, acting like they're being very noble. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just saying we don't want to damage the movie. And that's very likely as well. But we haven't heard anything from Paramount. We haven't heard anything from Guerrilla Flicks, the production companies involved. Haven't heard anything from any of the actors or cast, I guess, not really actors, about this. There was something that was mentioned, I think it was in a Variety article, that the Jackass cast are trying to help Bam. Who knows what that really means? Seemingly he is referred to the fact that he was tested for sobriety on the set during filming, and the condition of him being a part of the film was that he was sober, and possibly he failed one of those tests. And you know, you also have to kind of you know, point out that obviously the guy needs help, he's sick. It can't have been easy doing all this with Corona as well, because they presumably have to stop filming, and you know, when you can't necessarily go anywhere or do anything, and all of a sudden you're just, you know, in your house struggling with your demons, it's not always easy to win. And you know, that's kind of unfortunately where we sort of leave it. And the reason why I think they might not want to give this a lot of oxygen, as I mentioned, is because he's still going on. It's been going on for a while now. He's on, you know, Instagram. He's you know, effing and jeffing all these people, trying to burn bridges, and he keeps every now and then saying he's going to make his own film, which he's gone from calling, you know, like I'm not done yet, or having CKY, which is kind of where he started before Jackass, reviving that, and he's kind of begging people to send him money, and I like, that's not going to help him, and I don't think there's necessarily going to be a movie made by Bam for this stuff. And I think in general, Paramount possibly made the right decision not having him on the movie, because I think right now this is not what he needs. I think he's not in a position to be able to handle something like this, and I honestly think, like not to turn a phrase or be kind of glib and smart about it, the whole like I'm not done yet, which is what he kind of started calling things. If this carries on, he's going to end up like done. He's going to die. It's really sad and depressing. I mean, regardless of your feelings of Bam Margera or of Jackass in general, and I kind of see both sides of it, to be honest. This is a guy that clearly needs help and just isn't getting it, and it's really upsetting to see. And it you know, it's even more upsetting because if you would follow this stuff for a while, like even over a decade ago now, people were saying the same thing about Steve-O, and he managed to not only get sober, but he really turned his life around to the point that when they made Jackass 4, he was able to get a lot more money for it, because his profile had been raised pretty significantly since the last film. So, yeah, that's kind of the story. It's a story that really has barely been reported. It's been reported in some places, but it's also one that just feels like it doesn't really have an ending yet. But we're all just kind of hoping that the ending isn't going to be that that someone like Bam Margera is going to end up dead. That he can get the help he needs. And, you know, in a time when we're all, you know, recently on Twitter, everyone was kind of sharing that clip of Craig Ferguson talking about people insulting Britney Spears and laughing and making jokes about her, someone who was very publicly struggling with problems. And that's the same with Bam right now. And again, it's not easy to get something like that help. Sometimes they need to want to get help themselves, and I don't think he necessarily wants that, but it's just a shame that this is someone, and I think a lot of people can relate in some regard, really needs help. And unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get the help until he realizes he needs help. But hopefully there'll be some update to the story soon. And hopefully, you know, forget about the film. Hopefully this guy's okay. And if not just for him, however you feel about him, this is a guy with a very young kid. So, yeah, it's it's just a real downer. This is a guy who's been famous for a long time, which possibly couldn't have helped either. You know, he's been famous more of his life than he hasn't. So yeah, that's a real downer. I told you this show is just. It's like being a part of Jackass. It's like being slapped in the balls constantly this week, and it's not going to get better. Because remember when I said I don't like to get political on this podcast? Well, folks, we're taking another bite of the shit sandwich. Because this is a news story that's political, sort of, and it's a news story that is just too big to ignore. Let's talk about the Gina Carano thing. And I say this is kind of political because I don't know when it became a political opinion to be horrible, like racist or anti-Semitic and all these things. And before, here's the thing, right? There's already people being like, she didn't say that, like saying what she put out there, which I'm not going to repeat, but it was not a good thing to put out there. And she must have recognized that because she did delete it herself. And maybe she didn't delete it all unless out of her own heart, but she just deleted it because she thought she was going to get in trouble. And she did. And rightfully so, in my opinion. Again, I don't know when that sort of stuff became a political belief. These used to be people that would not be welcomed as part of a regular political discussion, but now they're part of regular political discourse, being anti-Semitic. Or believing in massive amounts of conspiracy theories and that kind of thing. Look, let's just get into this. Oh, fucking hell. I hate my show this week. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm and there are no plans for her to be in the future, was the statement put out by Lucasfilm. I think maybe even just the last time we put out the last episode. It's been about 2 weeks now. Her social media posts denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable, which is what they said. Leading up to this, hashtag Fire Gina Carano was trending on Twitter. This is not the first time she's stepped into shit on social media. She, in November, came under fire for posting things that mocked mask wearing. Pushed the idea that voter fraud was a factor in the 2020 election was another one. And before that even, she came under fire in the past for mocking trans people and their preferred pronouns. Like people put he or she as their pronouns in Twitter bios. She put like beep, boop, beep or something like that. This woman. Now look, disclaimer and all this stuff, okay? Believe whatever you want, okay? You can say whatever you want. Okay, I'm not going to agree with you, but of course you have the right to say it. And before we get into this, the free speech stuff and the cancel culture stuff, we really have to dive into the shit end of the pool today. Yeah, I know. Okay? I know. She didn't say it. She shared a meme and whatever meaning you took away from it. I generally had someone make that argument to me on Twitter. Which it was like, she didn't say that. Where did she say that? And look, if we're just going to act like everyone who makes like an allegory or a metaphor or doesn't outright say something anti-Semitic isn't implying something bad, then you know what? The people who probably believe that believe in the Bible. All the Bible is full of allegories. None of that shit happened then. Okay? Like, don't... Why, like, oh my god, I really don't want to cover the story, but I have to. It's too big to ignore. Stop with this bullshit. Okay? You can't, like, say something and then be like, oh, I didn't say it. Oh. If you have a strong backbone, which you keep claiming to have, stand by what you said or apologize for what you said if you don't believe it. And don't just pussyfoot around what you're saying. Okay? Anyway, we then kind of went back over, the history of her with Lucasfilm. And I even remember thinking at the time, I'm like, she has not really been around promoting The Mandalorian Season 2. And they deliberately left her out of The Mandalorian Season 2. And even more interesting is that when it came to Disney Investor Day, because I believe it or not, I had massively covered Disney Investor Day, but when I went to record an episode, my mic was broken, so I had all the news stories and all the write-ups and everything. They announced a lot of Star Wars series, and one of the series they announced was Rangers of the New Republic. And I think a lot of people, myself included, basically, you know, after the last season of The Mandalorian, and after they announced a million series, every character we saw, we were like, they're getting a spin-off, they're getting a spin-off, they're getting a spin-off. And I think it was written in the stars that Rangers of the New Republic was going to be the Gina Carano series. And here's the thing. Lucasfilm kind of denied that. But, you know. In other words, conspicuous by its absence was the cast announcement for that show. Because everyone assumed it was the Cara Dune series, which, can I just say this, right? I like The Mandalorian. But I'm not going to even act like I knew the character's name until this all broke out. And the fact that I can't remember Cara Dune and her name is Carano, like, I'd never found that character to be all that interesting. I don't think she's a very good actress, whether that's here or there. You know, they needed kind of a woman who kind of was physically strong and intimidating, and I think she can do that. But I don't think it's even her best performance. I think she was better in Deadpool in her limited screen time. Anyway, that's again neither here nor there. I'm just trying to escape the horror of this story. So a lot of people expected it would involve her. Lucasfilm have denied it, as I said, but it is interesting that they seemingly would have announced this around the time she started posting the first controversial stuff. And it's not the first time she's been warned by Lucasfilm about her social media conduct. In one instance, they actually drafted an apology for her, which she refused to use, and I think she then put up her own apology. The trans stuff, Pedro Pascal has a trans sibling, and he's been had a discussion with her, and she kind of came to some understanding and was like, okay, you know. And she has since, I think, basically said, like, look, we don't have similar political beliefs, me and Pedro Pascal, but we came to some sort of an agreement. So I guess, you know, in this world, be Pedro Pascal and not Gina Carano. Because she got fired and dropped from her agency, whereas he just got cast in the Last of Us TV series as Joel. I never mentioned that. Lyanna Mormont, is that the character's name? The little girl that was a queen in Game of Thrones, is going to be Ellie. So there you go. There's a bit of bonus news. That would have been much more positive. Imagine that. Imagine the world we're living in where, like, The Last of Us, the most depressing shit ever TV series, was a positive to the world we're in right now. So, anyway, she was just not on good terms with Lucasfilm for a while, it seems like. It seemed like they were really waiting for a reason to dismiss her. And certainly, this was enough of a reason. Now here's the thing, like, why? Let's jump into the big thing of, hey, freedom of speech. Yeah? Was she arrested? Was she charged with anything? Oh, right, well, that's what freedom of speech is. Okay? Let's just say that right now. Okay? Freedom of speech is to escape prosecution for what you say. It doesn't give you free license to what you say, because what you say will have consequences, like facing repercussions from your employers. I can't go into my boss and say, hey, you know what you should do with that mouth? Blah. I don't know. I wouldn't say that anyway, because I don't know where I was going for that. That would have been a very strange thing to say. I might have got fired just for something stupid like that. But in other words, you can't just say whatever shit you want when you're representing certain people. If you work for Burger King and you start saying negative things about a certain race of people, Burger King might say, hey, we want to serve to every race of people, whether that's because they want money, they do, or whether it's because they actually believe that, which, hey, if there was more money in discriminating against people, I'm sure they'd do that too. The point is, if you don't uphold the company's values or your employer's beliefs, they are well within their right to fire you, which is what Lucasfilm did. She's not being prosecuted for what she said. She's facing repercussions for what she said from her employer. Okay? Now, I know what people are also going to say. What about this person? What about that person? Okay? Let's talk about some people. Some people have said, what about Pedro Pascal? He compared some Trump putting people in cages to Nazi Germany or Holocaust or concentration camps, I think. You know, not a smart thing to say. Was it the first thing he has said about something like that? Probably. Does he have a history of that? Not to my knowledge. And again, it's not necessarily the same thing. Okay? Now, aside from that, other people I mentioned. What about James Gunn? James Gunn had abhorrent tweets. Horrible shit. That he tweeted a long time ago. That he publicly apologized for before they'd even resurfaced, as far as I'm aware. And you know what he did? He shut up. He apologized. He disappeared for a while. And then he came back in about a year. You know what Gina Carano did? She doubled down. All she had to do was apologize. But she didn't. Who's another person who was recently on the anti-vax train and all this stuff, and was in an anti-trans and homophobic views? Letitia Wright, who is employed, wouldn't you know it, by Disney for Marvel Studios. She said some horrible stuff on Twitter, and she apologized in a very wishy-washy way, not much of an apology from my memory, and then deleted her Twitter. And you know what? She still has a job. If you're going to stand by what you say, you also have to stand by the consequences to what you're saying. Okay? If you're going to say something that might belittle the Holocaust, and that's, again, I know people are going to say, oh, that's not what she said. Well, yeah, okay, right. Like, Jon Favreau had a Jewish mother. I believe he went to a Hebrew school. He's essentially Jewish, I think. Okay? That's what, like, why would you put your boss in that position? Because you are at a certain point not just hurting your own reputation, you're hurting the reputation of the people who gave you a job, lady. And if you look at Gina Carano's filmography, it's not a major, like, it's not a stellar filmography. It was mostly direct-to-DVD stuff, save for Deadpool and The Mandalorian. They took a big chance on her. And she shat in their hands. Okay? So, that is not even where we leave the story. Because I said she's standing by her actions, which to a certain point, I guess, fair enough. I don't agree with anything you're saying. You seem like a horrible person, but at least you're kind of standing by what you're saying. And I'm sure you won't regret that at all. When she went to Ben Shapiro and his website, The Daily Wire, and they're going to make a new movie. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic, Gina. Good for you. Stating, I am sending out a direct message of hope to everyone living in fear of cancellation by the totalitarian mob. Carano stated February 12th, I have only just begun using my voice, which is now freer than ever before, and I hope it inspires others to do the same. Okay. Good luck with that. Cancellation? I mean, you were fired. Is everyone that gets fired for saying something horrible cancellation? Maybe you could just, like, here's the thing, right? I am under no illusion that half of the people in Hollywood are good people. Like, I'm sure there's actors that I like that have horrible views. You can kind of push it out of your mind at times. You can kind of deny it. Guess what? Chris Pratt has some pretty obscene views, seemingly. Allegedly. But you know what? He doesn't go off and shout about them because that would put Disney in a real awkward position. A position that might say, hey, you know what? Star-Lord's going to die off screen. Which, by the way, they've said they're not going to recast character for now. Okay? But to be honest, I didn't find that character interesting anyway. And maybe that's just my opinion, but whatever. Either way, that's the Gina Carano story. Jesus fucking Christ. Like I said, this is, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it just be nice if for 1 week, there was just no news? No news is good news, right? It's a bad week for news. I'm going to have to go even further this time with bad news. Because I'm doing a segment that I haven't done in nearly a year. Okay? And I got rid of this segment for a reason. Because the world was shitty enough. I haven't done this since March of 2020. You know, the world was kind of bad since then, wasn't it? I used to do a segment before we had a video version called the Minute Long Meltdown, where I ranted on something that made me really angry this week. And I was like, you know what? The world, let's not put anger and hate out there right now. Some people don't deserve it. This week, plenty of people deserve it. But I'm saving one in the chamber for this story. So, unfortunately, welcome the return of the minute-long meltdown.
The minute-long meltdown is presented by Chernobyl, not the disaster.
Oh boy. Where do we get started? Now, oh wait, I know where we get started. I put on my lawyer hat a sec. Everything I'm going to say is allegedly. Alleged. None of this is necessarily true, but let's just say alleged. If I say it is true, that was just a slip of the tongue. It's alleged. Frat boy douche, sexual assaulter, and allegedly talented director Brett Ratner is gearing up for a comeback. Now I know I normally do minute long meltdown and it's minute long. I can't contain myself for a minute here. This is going to go bad, because if you thought I was angry and pissed off at the Gina Carano stuff, I'm just like, that's for me. That's like, hey, you reap what you sow. This person sowed something bad and they're somehow seemingly doing alright. This isn't a view, these are actions. Okay? The shit sandwich, folks, we're down to the crust. I'm sorry, trying to find some degree of humour in this. There's no humour in this episode at all. It's a total downer. This is say this one. This is like, play this in the bath and slit your wrist, folks. Oh god, I can't put this episode out. It's too depressing. It's too bad. Everything is awful. So, he's gearing up for his comeback. Okay? Because Millennium Films, they're not going to blame the millennials, although I'm sure plenty of people in this organisation do. Millennium Films is partnering with Brett Ratner to make a Milli Vanilli biopic. The popular 80s and 90s R&B duo whose careers went up in flames when it was revealed they didn't sing their music and were simply lip-syncing. Yeah, Brett Ratner's career should have gone up in flames. Because you might say, who's Brett Ratner? If you don't know, let's just have a quick reminder. Let's first talk about his amazing filmography, which, has Brett Ratner ever made an actually good film? I mean, don't get me wrong, Rush Hour is okay, but generally speaking, he just throws out shit. But that's fine. There's plenty of bad directors in Hollywood. But Brett Ratner also has been accused of assaulting 7 women, including Olivia Munn and Natasha Henstridge. This is also the guy who sexually harassed Elliot Page, by the way, when they were 18, and also outed his sexuality. This was confirmed by Anna Paquin, by the way, who was also on set. So I'm assuming it was during that shitty film he made, X-Men The Last Stand, and he did it in front of cast and crew and everyone. Probably because he turned down the sexual harassment that this sack of shit did. Sorry, allegedly. So Ratner has decided to make a comeback. And, you know, hey, let's just talk about the fact that that's not his first time trying to make a comeback. He recently bought the life rights to the guy who founded the Wall Street Bet subreddit in the wake of the GameStop stock surge. So he's like, I'm going to buy these rights. Because, oh, can we talk about that, by the way? Shut the fuck up about the GameStop thing. It's over, man. I'm like, there's like 6 movies in development, a TV series, all this stuff. No, I don't have the energy to watch one. Like, stop just, like, you're so stupid, Hollywood. Like, you're just like, oh, this is a big news story. One guy, I swear to God, I think it was, I'm trying to remember the author's name, I think it's Ben Mesrick. He wrote the Accidental Billionaires, I think it was, which is what inspired The Social Network. I think it was him. They bought the rights to the guy's idea that he was going to write a book. He didn't do anything. He's like, I'm going to write a book. And they're like, can we buy the rights? Here's a lot of money. It's an idea in public domain. You could just pay some scriptwriter, you know, to write a script on it. Like, it's not... Ugh. Anyway, sorry, that's just an aside. God, man, I just need to think of my happy place. I don't even know where that is anymore. So, Brett Ratner bought the life rights to that, and you know, whatever. He bought it through his production company. Hey, he's going to, you know, buy the rights to something with his own production company and make his own movie, and hopefully everyone else will have the common sense to not work with him, leave him alone, and just die on the vine. But no. Because whatever about that, this is where Millennial Films come in. Millennial Films, by the way, Of course, never one to let a rapist out of work. I'm not joking. Sorry, allegedly. Let me just throw that in there. Millennium Films, we talked about before. I get the feeling I might have done a minute-long meltdown on these guys before, actually. Because as an aside, let's just jog your memory right now. The CEO of Millennium Films is a guy called Avi Lerner, the same guy who hired Bryan Singer to direct Red Sonja after all the allegations came out that he was raping underage boys. Let that sink in for a sec. And then let's just say, hey, he defended it. He didn't even back down. It's not like he did this accidentally. First of all, he said, hey, did you see how much money Bohemian Rhapsody made? This is an actual statement he put out, by the way, to defend this. He was like, do you see how much money Bohemian Rhapsody made? Clearly, this is an artist that people love and want to make movies with. And oh, he's a great guy. And then he said, I know the difference between agenda-driven fake news and reality, and I am very comfortable with this decision. In America, people are innocent until proven otherwise. Sure, let's ignore all the massive amount of allegations that have been around Bryan Singer for years now. Sorry, decades even. Go look up his first film, Apt Pupil, by the way. I think it was his first one. If it wasn't, it was certainly the first one that caught people's attention. Not even because of its quality, but because... I'm not even going to go, so just look it up. This is awful. I hate this so much. That statement, by the way, from Avi Lerner sounded really self-serving. I wonder why. It's probably because Avi Lerner is the same guy, same piece of shit, alleged piece of shit, that was accused of harassing and gender discriminating against one of his employees. And also, the same guy who rang and threatened Terry Crews's career when he opened up about his assault. So yeah, quite a triangle and a tangled web of arseholes we have here between Millennium and Brett Ratner and Bryan Singer. At least Bryan Singer doesn't seem to be back. Brett Ratner is like, no, they're not going to cancel me. They're going to regret ever not hiring me to make a Milli Vanilli biopic. Who wants that anyway? By the way, even ignoring that Brett Ratner is attached to it, even ignoring that this is being worked on by a company that is happily okay, seemingly okay, with just hiring people with horrible allegations against them. Credible ones too, by the way. This isn't like one allegation. This is multiple people coming out against these people. Okay? It's horrible. And anyone that wants to do business with Brett Ratner or Millennium Films should take a look at themselves. Because I don't even know how much money there is in this to begin with. If you can even justify working with these people for money. And you know what? Gina Carano is all on about cancel culture. And here you go, Gina. Here's proof that people don't get cancelled. That's minute-long meltdown. Fucking hell. I'm genuinely now kind of like, can I actually put this episode out? Because it's just... It sucks, dude. It was nothing but just weeks of awful, awful news. You know, like as if the world wasn't shit enough, you know? Like, it's just like, hey, who's around? Rapists? Yeah, they can work. People pushing anti-Semitic beliefs? Sure. It's, was the world always this bad? I'm genuinely asking, because it just feels like it's been a shit sandwich. It's, hey, we finished our shit sandwich. Yes. Okay. I don't know if things are going to get any better, but look, here's the thing. I said I didn't do Mid-Long Meltdown in a year, but I did think to myself, when I started all this, when I was bringing it back as a video podcast, when I was trying to be a bit more positive, I said, maybe I can turn it around. Maybe things don't always have to be negative. Maybe it doesn't always have to be angry. And I definitely need this, just hook it to my veins right now. I need some positive news. So ages ago, and I've never got to do it, because I guess this is me breaking glass and pressing the big red button. We need something to cheer us up, and that's why I'm bringing a feature to the table called, well, you'll see for yourself.
The minute-long melt.
Why melt down when you can turn that frown upside down? Yay!
That's right, the minute-long turn that frown upside down. This is the anti-minute-long meltdown. This is news that I desperately need right now. News that makes us kind of happy, because if there is a bastion of hope in the world, no, it's not Superman. No, it's not Supergirl, even though they might try, and you know what, they might succeed someday. But if there's one symbol of hope and optimism left in film, it's Paddington. The bear who, look, they say please look after this bear. This bear's looking after us, man. In these days. You know what? I definitely think the world has gotten worse since there hasn't been another Paddington movie since 2017. Like, can we do a study on that? If you're not familiar with Paddington Bear, of course, he was a famous character created by Michael Bond, who's been around forever. You know, a bear from darkest Peru who eats marmalade sandwiches and gets taken in by the Brown family. And if you're not familiar with this most recent iteration of Paddington Bear films, you owe it to yourself to check them out. This isn't even me. You know me, I'm the most sarcastic asshole going. But these movies are pure joy. The first one especially is good. The second one though is honestly, I don't know how anyone could watch this movie and not be just overjoyed. It's such a lovely film. It's like a Wes Anderson kids film, but not kind of with the weird undertones of a Wes Anderson film. And that's not a dig at Wes Anderson. We're being positive here. I just mean, like, you know, Wes Anderson stuff where you're like, oh, that's a kind of a weird fixation he has there. This is just a pure joy film. I genuinely saw this film with my family at the end of 2017, and I was actually like, you know, I think I actually saw it the last day of 2017. I was actually like, this might be the best film I've seen this year. It was just pure joy. They're wonderful films. You should definitely check them out. And that's why the happy news that we needed this week is that officially, despite us not hearing much for a while, there was 3 years between the first films, that we've now passed 3 years. Studio Canal confirmed this week that Paddington 3 is indeed being worked on. There was some kind of confusion, seemingly, and uncertainty, because there's really no further details on this, but the director of the first two, Paul King, was not going to return as director, so that kind of threw everything kind of up in the air. Are we still going to get another Paddington? Please give us another Paddington. The world needs it now more than ever. He's not going to return as director. He's working on a Willy Wonka origin film. I told myself I'm not going to get angry, even though I could definitely throw some barbs at that one. He's not going to direct it, but he is going to be involved in some way. But that's all that we have. That's all we know. There's going to be another Paddington film. That's all we know. That's all we needed. Because, you know what? The world is bad enough, but just knowing there's going to be more joyful Ben Whishaw voiced Paddington, that's all I need. That's all I want. I just want happy news. Kind of like, you know what? I shouldn't even wait 2 weeks for another episode. I should just put out an episode next week, and it can be the everything is awesome version. Because everything has been awful, but one thing that is certainly not awful, one thing that has certainly saved me in the last few weeks of this horrible news everywhere, is that we're getting another Paddington film. So hurry back, Paddington. You've definitely been missed. We're going to replace our shit sandwich with a lovely marmalade sandwich, which I'm sure you're happy to share. I'm not even joking, man. I'm not even playing a bit now. That genuinely warmed my heart just now, going through that news story and thinking about Paddington. I wish I wasn't recording now so I could sit down and watch the Paddington films. But thankfully, things are about to get a little bit better as we get to our trailer trash. We got through the shit sandwich, thank Christ. Here we go with our trailer trash.
This is the theme for trailer
This is the theme for trailer trash. Get in the bin.
Get in the bin.
You know what? The trailer trash this week is also pretty positive, even for things we didn't really expect to be positive. Because if you see behind me playing at the moment is the trailer for Cruella. Now, on paper, I was not very nice to Cruella because, you know, she's evil. And I was like, oh man. Because kind of a weird recurring pattern in some of these kind of Disney things is trying to make sympathetic villains. They did it with Maleficent and it kind of worked. I didn't think it was a terrible film, but I was like, oh, are they really going to do that with a woman that, let's not forget, was going to skin 101 dogs to make a coat? Not even multiple coats, like just one coat. But thankfully, they seemingly realized that was a nigh on impossible task. I think we were all kind of waiting for that horrible moment where, like, oh god, Cruella's parents were eaten by 101 Dalmatians. No! And I promised that day I would get my revenge on 101 Dalmatians. But thankfully, there's not really that. There is one moment where she's barked up by 2 Dalmatians, but that seems like a bit of a stretch. Instead, what we've gotten is a surprisingly stylish, visually interesting, dark origin story that, look, let's be clear, we definitely don't need, but kind of looks good. Like, it doesn't look amazing or anything, but it looks kind of interesting. As we mentioned, Emma Stone plays Cruella de Vil in this kind of gothy punk London, where it's like the cutthroat fashion industry. It doesn't all make sense. It's all kind of weird. Like, she has a dress that catches fire and it burns all the clothes in the air. I don't know how that works, but sure. we'll buy it. Whatever, as long as you make this movie kind of interesting. So Cruella has this kind of weird rivalry, I guess. I think it's a Baroness character played by I believe it's Emma Thompson. And so it is weird. They are kind of giving her that antagonist, which does make you think, oh, is she going to be the good guy, kind of? But seemingly not, because they really do push the idea that, yeah, she's not good. So fair play to him. But look, this is one of those trailers where I'm like, it's not terrible. I do kind of find it weird that they jumped from, like, Cruella being like just this weird fashion nightmare to just being like, yes, I steal cars and rob banks, like she's suddenly a master villain. I just thought she was like just this crazy fashion bitch, you know, that's like skinning dogs. But apparently not. And what is also interesting is it kind of looks like this movie is like, people have drawn comparisons to Harley Quinn and to Joker, because it really does look like this movie is going to sort of chronicle Cruella de Vil going crazy, which is kind of interesting to me. Like, she goes too far, kind of. And you know what? Emma Stone looks excellent in the film. Like, she's a great actress, obviously, but like, she might be the perfect actress to bring this to life, of a character that is just slowly losing her grip. And again, is it going to be sympathetic? Possibly in places, you know. I mean, if you're watching a character kind of lose their grasp of sanity and kind of go insane, I assume there will be a little bit of kind of sympathy for that character, but no more than the Joker movie, which is what this kind of looked like. I think actually Joker and Harley Quinn both trended on Twitter when this was released, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm not dreading the Cruella movie. Which, to be honest, I don't think there's been any of the live action Disney stuff that I haven't been generally ambivalent towards, both in anticipation and in the final product. I mean, the one I liked the most was probably Aladdin, unless there's one I'm forgetting. But this looks good. The cinematography looks excellent. The wardrobe and the costuming look really good, and I kind of like the way they're taking this. It comes out in May, so we won't have long to wait, but wow, it kind of surprised me, and it surprised a lot of people with how damn good it kind of looks. But it wasn't the only trailer that came out and knocked people's socks off. We had a big few weeks for trailers. We had 3 big trailers over the last while, and apparently that's going to continue. We're going to get a trailer for Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead on Thursday, so it'll be covered on the next episode. But we will come to the other Zack Snyder trailer, don't worry. But before that, we should have this. Let me just clear my throat a second if I'm going to try this. Mortal Kombat! I don't know what I was doing there. And the video version, this is why you should listen to the audio version, because you're spared the embarrassment of me. I was going to do like some fight stuff, and then I was like, oh, that might fuck up the green screen, so instead I just awkwardly kind of fist bumped like I'm on the Jersey Shore. We got a trailer for the Mortal Kombat movie. Now, this was one of my most anticipated films. It won an award for the video game movie of the year at our award show, our most coveted award show, by the way. And it also was on my top 10 list of most anticipated for the year. And at the time, I said my anticipation and excitement for this film, I will be able to tell whether or not I'm going to dig it or not from the trailer, because it was that kind of thing where like there was enough mystery surrounding it that once that mystery was revealed, I was either going to be like, okay, not interested, not for me, thanks, or hey, this looks pretty good. And you know what? It looks pretty good. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not like this is the best film ever, but it fucking looks like Mortal Kombat, which is kind of what you want when you're making a Mortal Kombat movie. It is violent. This is a red band trailer, make no mistake about it. It is very violent, which is what you need for Mortal Kombat. It's fatalities, right? They have a lot of characters in it that look pretty good overall. We have the likes of Sonya Blade, Kano there. We have a great shot of him in this trailer. Perfect with his Australian accent as well. I think that is an actor who's in Superstore as well. But anyway, the video version, it looks like he's lasering my neck off right now. Fatality. We have Scorpion and Sub-Zero. They get a lot of, like, they're like the selling point of the movie so far, and their kind of rivalry, which is awesome. This is exactly what you need, I think. We have Liu Kang in the trailer, Raiden, Jax, and they all look pretty damn good. Now the thing is, you know, they might look good in the trailer and the movie itself might be bad. Here's the thing, right? And you kind of, I've said this before, I did a whole feature before on why video game movies kind of suck, right? No one expects, generally speaking, for a video game movie, or even, to be honest, some video games, to have a good story. Because if you want a good video game, as long as the gameplay is good, it'll work. Mortal Kombat story is just, hey, there's a big fight tournament going on, and now we gotta fight each other. That's all you need. And you know what? This looks like a big fighting tournament with a lot of weird characters and a lot of cool supernatural stuff and a lot of violence. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make a Mortal Kombat movie. And they looks like they're doing a pretty good job. I heard the director break down the trailer, and he kind of had a good grasp on what he was doing, and he kind of said a lot of the right stuff, like, you know, the fatalities can't just be there and go, they have to mean something, and kind of understood sort of the mythology and how to present these characters, and it just, he said the right things. And visually this looks great. Like, don't get me wrong, the effects are hit and miss at times. There's some stuff that was like not excellent looking, and it maybe, I don't think it's going to be changed. Like, this movie comes out in April, so I mean there's not really much time. Maybe it'll change slightly, but overall it had great moments, which is what you want from a Mortal Kombat movie. The ones are playing behind me currently in the video version of him slicing someone so blood spurts out, freezing the blood, and using it as a dagger. That is fucking Mortal Kombat, man. He has the one. Do you know what? Actually, one of the things I will say that was the minor disappointment is the actor who plays Scorpion's delivery of "Get over here." Like, in the games, it's really like "Get over here." That was not a good read, but he just was kind of like "Get over here," and it was just kind of like a bit flat. Could have gone for a second take there. It's got a lot of the characters too. Noticeable by their absence is, for example, Johnny Cage. Some people are speculating he could be in it. I think some people were also suggesting that the character, probably the greatest deal of controversy surrounding this movie, is the new character who is just a creation. The character of Cole Young, I want to say. He's just, I'm an MMA fighter, and I got it. Like, he's got like a Homer Simpson stonecutter tattoo with the Mortal Kombat logo. He's the chosen one, I guess. And people are like, why is he your like POV character into this world? Now, to be honest, a lot of the time that's Liu Kang. I don't find Liu Kang to be very interesting anyway, so I don't know why they created a new character. Maybe it's because he'd be more disposable, I don't know. But a lot of people have been speculating that he might be like related to Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Possibly. That could make it kind of interesting. But like, yeah, a lot of some of the like most iconic characters are in this, and I think they've left out enough characters as well. I think they've got a good balance, in other words, of the roster. You know, there's some characters missing, but I think those are characters that could easily be explored in the sequel. And one thing I like as well, and this is just kind of what I'm gathering from the trailer. Well, first of all, they got some really nice settings. Apparently, the settings in this are natural. But there's also a few kind of allusions to other characters. I think at one point we see there's apparently a hint at Noob Saibot. There's apparently a hint at Melina. Well, no, not Melina. Jade. and a few other characters. There's seemingly Reptile is in it as well. At one point, it looks like Kano might actually rip out his heart. But what I think is also really cool is it really feels like the characters are going to go through damage, because I think a lot of people, to the outsider looking in, it's kind of like, how do you do fatalities in a Mortal Kombat movie? You can't just keep killing off your characters, you know? And like, I think what they do here kind of feels like round 1, oh, they remove, Jack's lost his arms. Oh, well, round 2, he's got the metal arms now. You're fucked now, you know? It kind of feels like characters might go through the damage. Like, we have Melina here, and there was some controversy that Melina doesn't have like the big kind of cut jaw, where load of teeth. But again, round 1 she mightn't. Round 2, I think that she might have that damage. I think it could be the same with, say, like Kano. Like, he might get punched through the head and be nearly dead, and then come back as a cyborg, and that's why he's got the laser eye. And it looks really good. Like, it looks like Mortal Kombat. And I think that's like that's honestly the kind of best compliment you can give it. I'm not saying this is going to be high art, but I think the fighting looks good. It looks like it has acceptable violence, and it looks like it's paying a degree of respect to the kind of Mortal Kombat mythology, which is what exactly you need to do. The question is, could this be a good video game movie? Maybe. Is it going to be the best video game movie? Who knows? I mean, it's not exactly hard, but it looks like it's faithful to Mortal Kombat, and that is what you need it to be. So yeah, I was very happy with this trailer, I will say, and at least for now, I'm excited for the Mortal Kombat movie, and I don't have long to wait because it is coming to HBO Max. So awesome! I've put in the depression and sadness and anger behind me from the start of the episode, which is a shame I didn't just do that at the start. So yeah, what can I say? The trailer for Mortal Kombat I quite enjoyed. And it's weird, because a trailer that I thought might drive me into the pits of despair was the trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was probably the closest thing we got to a proper trailer. We had the Hallelujah trailer, but it felt a bit incomplete. We've had all sorts of clips. And this was the best look we've got at it yet. And seemingly probably the final trailer for it as well, to be honest, because it's coming out pretty soon. And you know what? I've been very negative towards this movie overall, and I think I have my reason, and I still don't think it's going to be a great movie, and there's other stuff that's come out since the trailer's dropped that's made me go like, yeah, probably won't be good. This trailer was kind of okay. I didn't hate it, and it's kind of weird because the trailer came out and it was just dominated by the final line, which is given to us by Jared Leto's Joker, which we will get to, don't worry. And I will say as well, the trailer playing behind me in the video version has been altered quite significantly, and that's stretched to, you know, a normal aspect ratio, because Zack Snyder has it in the IMAX format ratio, which basically, you know, it's almost as if we don't all have IMAX screens, because it just looks like a TV from the 60s kind of aspect ratio, like your 4:3 kind of thing going on. But regardless, it you know, looks kind of good. We have like a lot of the footage that we've seen in previous cuts of, well, in the previous cut of the Justice League, but there is some stuff in here that looks decent. Now, is it stuff that makes me want to sit through the 4-hour Snyder Cut like I'm inevitably going to have to? No, not especially. I mean, I think it's an okay trailer, but not an amazing one. I don't think it has convinced me that this is going to be a better movie, or even be a good movie, but it looks like at least a kind of cohesive vision, even if it's a vision I don't necessarily agree with. So there's honestly, what's so strange about this is I don't feel like there's all that much to say about a Zack Snyder Justice League film anymore, because we've heard so much about it by now, and really it feels like we're kind of just talking about footage we've seen in some form already. So like, I guess the thing we should talk about is the thing that is clearly new, which is the inclusion of Jared Leto's Joker, right? Where he delivers the iconic line, you know, we're living in a society, Batman, or let's see if I'll actually go back and see if I can play that over the video. I'm sure I'm going to get a copyright strike anyway, I'm sure, but you might as well just listen to it there.
We live in a society.
Yeah, we live in a society. The iconic meme that people have been shouting about for the Joker. Ironically, for a while, It kind of definitely came to a head when Todd Phillips' Joker movie came out, and it was a joke. And the question is, did he realize it was a joke? Is he trolling us? Or is he serious? Has Zack Snyder become an epic troll? Is he playing with us? I kind of don't know. Or does he generally think that's a good line? Because that was obviously meant to be an oversimplification of the Joker's things. Basically like, oh, society's messed up, isn't it? Oh. I don't know. I can't tell. And you see, the thing is, this week we had a Vanity Fair article, which is a very interesting article, even if you're not excited for the Snyder Cut, which I've made my feelings known in that in the past, and I've mixed feelings on it. It was a very interesting kind of insight into Zack Snyder coming back to this, and what led to him kind of stepping away from Justice League, including, you know, the very tragic death or passing of his daughter Autumn. And it was a very kind of touching and sweet article. It was a very good insight into happening. Again, like, as much as it's easy to come off as a Zack Snyder hater, like, I was a Zack Snyder fan. I don't like what he's done with the DC films, but I think he has some merits as a filmmaker. And I think I would be excited to see him move on to other projects. You know, I don't like kind of the kind of narrative that his fan base has sort of developed around the DC films, and I don't like his DC films in general overall, although I do have a kind of a soft spot for Man of Steel, which has kind of developed probably more and more over time, to be honest. But I just, Batman v Superman, like, I could not stand it. I know that's like sacrilege to some people, but yeah, that was just how I kind of felt. It's interesting then that this trailer I found to be quite good. Again, it's not perfect, and I think the problem is, like, I really wish that we could do it in a way that I could forget that I'd ever seen Justice League, that I could forget I've ever seen the Justice League trailers, because it's hard to watch this with fresh eyes, because some of the footage you're like, oh, I remember that shot, I remember that, and sure, the context could be different, and there is additional stuff here, like, of course, Darkseid is in it, and Granny Goodness is next to him as well, which we're pointing out. And, you know, we have Black Suit Superman, Evil Superman is in it a bit more. And all that's very interesting. And I think that's kind of the way I'm approaching this. I'm not approaching this as, like, a fan like some people are, of like, yes, Zack Snyder gets to complete his vision. I'm approaching this in my head as kind of, it's fascinating to see someone get another shot at a film they didn't get to finish with seemingly no real restrictions. I mean, obviously, under normal circumstances, had he stayed to finish Justice League, it was never going to be a 4-hour R-rated film. But this is why I kind of find it interesting, and whether it's good or not, I kind of just want this to be the end of the Snyder Cut stuff and the Snyder Cut fans, even though I kind of have a big feeling it won't be. Because it's tiring. It's as tiring as the sadness of this podcast. Yeah, so I didn't hate this trailer. Again, it didn't make a believer out of me. It didn't convince me that this Snyder Cut is going to be the savior of cinema, like some people say it's to be. It didn't even convince me that it's going to be, you know, a better film than the theatrical cut. But it is good that he's in some way getting to finish his creative vision, as it were. And yeah, all that said, I didn't hate it. I guess that's praise. I should say as well, we're talking about, like, Zack Snyder becoming a troll, seemingly. Because if he is, it's kind of funny. And, you know, I do kind of wonder that, because it does feel like at times like he's just taking ideas from fans. And, you know, obviously fans kind of champion that we live in the sideline. Whether ironic or a joke, I don't know if he got the joke, it doesn't matter. He has, like, Jared Leto with the Crown of Thorns, which I'm like, what is this? Is he trying to mess with people who say, like, if he's messing with people doing that, he is a genius. Because, like, the big thing is always like, oh, Zack Snyder just puts all this Christian allegory in his films, and he's so unsubtle about it. And then he's like, hey, the Joker is Jesus, right? Am I right, guys? And we're like, what? Why? But, you know, and the funniest thing is, like people like me on Twitter just been like, this is so stupid. How is Superman a Jesus allegory in his films, and also the Joker? In what way is the Joker Jesus? And then there's people defending it on Twitter. which is just hilarious. Where it's like, you know, it's not out of character because the Joker would dub himself a king. Maybe he'll dub himself as Jesus. And I'm like, okay. And? And then there's people. He also wanted to make Bruce Wayne and Lois be a couple, which got shot down by Warner Bros., which I'm like, huh. Good it got shut down. Because, and again, it's that thing again where like people are like, oh well, in the comics it happened once, and like here's the thing, right? Like, I don't think necessarily justifying something as loyal to comics or not loyal to the comics is necessarily a thing. But if you're going to deviate from comics, it should have a, if you're going to kind of subvert, and I know it's become a dirty word in film criticism and film analysis. If you're going to subvert tropes and expectations, you should be doing that to reveal some sort of wider truth about the world or the medium or something. And I don't think like Zack has really done that. He's subverted things just for the sake of subverting them to be kind of shocking, in my opinion, at times. And like, if you're going to kind of like just point to the comics every time as like, here's the thing. Pretty much everything has happened in comics. Superman has like had a ridiculous, stupid powers in the comics, but that doesn't mean we should see him, because we have kind of basically have this established idea of what these characters are in our heads, and it doesn't mean they have to stick to them constantly. But if you're going to deviate from them, you know, have a reason for doing so. All of a sudden, like Bruce Wayne is just going to creep on Lois Lane after Superman is dead. That's just kind of weird and unnecessary. And it makes me think less of both characters. I don't know. It just feels like, and I saw someone say this, like, he just takes everything away from Superman. Zack Snyder just doesn't like Superman, seemingly, which is weird. And I'm sure people are going to say, "Oh, well, he's doing that so we can get Superman, the ultimate Superman." Okay, sure. He killed Superman's best buddy, Jimmy Olsen. He killed Superman, and he was going to take away his girl. And yeah, sure, he loves Superman. Anyway. That would normally be our show, but look, we need a treat. Let's kind of restore some normality here, and do some useless IMDb trivia, because I think we just need the boost, folks. It's in a downer. It'll get better before it gets worse, hopefully. Well, it already got worse, but it's getting better, I guess. Anyway, useless IMDb trivia.
All trivia may be useless, but no trivia is more useless than useless IMDb trivia. That's a piece of trivia too.
That's right, useless IMDb trivia. By God, it's been a while. This is exactly what it sounds like. We go to IMDb, we look at the trivia, and we find something that's totally useless. In case you're not aware, anyone can just submit trivia to IMDb. Okay? We're going to look at Justice League, by the way. Ooh, this is going to be an interesting one, I'd say. Probably a lot of fans being like, did you know that fucking Zack Snyder's amazing and Joss Whedon's prick? I mean, he is, but, you know. If you're not aware, as I said, anyone can add trivia. The kind of... what inspired me to make this, right? This segment is... I used to look at trivia at the end of movies, after watching them, like, and I used to find, like, just useless trivia, as it sounds like, and... one of those useless bits of trivia was on X-Men First Class, and the piece of trivia was, it's not the first time January Jones has worked with an actor with a pork-based product in their name. She also starred in Mad Men with John Hamm, and in this film she stars with Kevin Bacon, and it was like, oh, okay, cool, that's really good there, and that's kind of what this is a lot of the time. It's just, oh, someone noticed a connection and then said, this is trivia, when it really isn't. So let's go to the very end here of Justice League and see what we get. Unfortunately, it's seemingly freezing from me scrolling, but I'm sure we'll find something interesting here. Ezra Miller doesn't think of Barry Allen as fast, but rather as a quantum vibrator that plays within the reality of time and space. What the fuck? What? Ezra Miller believes that Flash, like themselves, is interested in the works of noted inventor and futurist Nikola Tesla. This is just hey, this is just basically like, isn't Ezra Miller kind of weird? He sure is. It just feels like an actor justifying his decisions. They're like, hey, why you running weird? I don't run weird. I'm a quantum vibrator. Oh, okay. What else can you tell us there, Ezra Miller? I'm reading a book about Nikola Tesla. Okay, well, you should be reading over the script. No, Barry reads Nikola Tesla too. Oh. Okay. Thanks there Ezra Miller, shouldn't you be somewhere, like, practicing your lines and training? No. I'm off to strangle a woman in Iceland, or whatever he was doing. Oh, Ezra Miller. Ladies and gentlemen, what a prick. Or is he? I can't say, because I don't want to jump the gun like I have in the past. And also, I don't want to get this episode to be even more depressing, because we kind of pulled it back there in the end. Just about. Anyway, next episode will be more positive, I promise. Again, come back in about 2 weeks. We're gearing up to St. Patrick's Day, and normally when I do that, that means I have an episode in Irish. On May Ceann Dóibh Sin Go Marís. Better. If you don't speak Irish, you probably don't know what I said. But just know this, it was positive, and I said I like you a lot. And remember, what I also said is I can't spell cult without you. I did that really weird in the video version. This is why you should listen to the audio. But whatever way you listened, thank you for doing it. And I'm going to try it again. I can't spell cult without you. God, it looks weird in the video version. Bye.
This is a broadcast from the Pop Cult Pod.